Joe, how are you doing?
Good, good.
We're here to give out the awards for the Players of the Year, the Under-21 Gáis Energy Under-21 Team of the Year. And I was reminded of a photograph that I was looking at a little bit earlier on of you guys as Under-21s. And somebody was obviously good at selecting the talent because it was you and Paul Murphy and Patrick Horgan. And it kind of just brought home that this is actually a really important age group.
Yeah, exactly. Who was it? I think it was probably Cher Cunningham that probably picked all of us that time. So that was at the very start, and then we got back together this year again for the senior, obviously, because the senior launch with Gáis Energy. So it was kind of cool to have the same guys nearly back again. I think the only guy was Aaron Graffin, who was away travelling at the time from Antrim. So most of us got to meet each other again.
And the actual picking of the team, the one difficulty is we don't get to see a lot of these players. Some of them play one brilliant game in the first round of the Munster Championship and they get beaten. You know, if you come up against Limerick in the first round of the Munster Championship this year, you didn't know it, but you were up against the best team in the country. Yeah,
that's always difficult, I suppose, but that's kind of the beauty of the Under-21 Championship in a way as well, because it is knockout, and I suppose with the team we had to kind of take that into consideration as well, because if a guy played brilliant in one game that he was there early on the season, you had to take that into consideration as well, where like the Limerick guys obviously got more opportunity to play more games and we could see them a little bit more. So that's probably the most difficult thing when you're picking the team, whether you weigh up one match or 3 or 4 matches together, you know.
Tell us about how the aftermath of being an All-Ireland champion has been for you. Is it a bit crazy, or do you get some calmness eventually?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It, like everybody, obviously because we didn't win it for 29 years, it's something new to everybody, and it's new to my generation as well, because obviously I wasn't born when we last won it. I was a month yet to be born. So yeah, it is pretty hectic bringing the cup around to schools and stuff like that, and but it's enjoyable in a way as well, because you know that it means so much to so many people. You get stopped now the whole time, and you're kind of more known than you were before. You know, everybody wants to shake your hand or something like that. You know.
How much of it do you actually get to take in? Like, how much of this is a bit of a blur that you think in a couple of years' time you'll go, "Oh Jesus, like that happened." Do you know, like what? Are you able to kind of go, "Today I'm going to remember this was a good thing that happened today"? Like, I'm not even talking about the matches. I'm talking about this kind of.
It's hard. It's hard. Like, even just now thinking about it, I don't really remember too much. I'd find it very hard to actually tell you, is it 3 or 4 weeks since the final, or is it 5 weeks? Do you know? Parts of it is hard to kind of enjoy as well, because you're, as I said, you're getting pulled and dragged everywhere, and you don't get time with the lads. Like, we haven't been together as a group now really since maybe a couple of days after the final.
Yeah.
Not everybody together. So you kind of, they're the guys that you want to enjoy it with, and maybe in the next few months when it settles down a little bit more, and we can enjoy it together a little bit more towards Christmas and stuff.
Because Jim Gavin has that famous thing where he kind of locks the doors when they win All Ireland, which obviously he's got a lot of practice with now, and says these people will never all be in the same room again as long as you live. So you all have to look around and remember that you were all part of this journey together.
Yeah. Did
you get a chance to do that? Like, is that dressing room after the game, or is there something on the day?
Yeah. It obviously, like, they're the special moments when you don't have the outside world, I suppose, being allowed into the dressing rooms here anyway in Croke Park and stuff like that. So there was 1 or 2 days that we were obviously going around Galway and stuff. We did a couple of kind of, not a couple of homecomings, but in the next few days we went to different parishes and stuff like that. So we were nearly all there together anyway. But I don't think you'll get the same group as you did in the one dressing room anyway after the All Ireland.
Yeah. Why did you win it this year? What's the difference between this team and any of the other teams that have come so close that you've been part of?
Yeah, it's hard to put your finger on it. Like, everybody has a different opinion on different things.
What's yours?
I think the guys from 16 to 34, 35, including like Paul Keelan, obviously did his cruciate early on the season and missed a lot of the training and stuff since then. But definitely from 16 to 34, I think guys drove that standard a little bit better this year than other years. Maybe I found it a little bit in other years that 1 to 15 you're a little bit happy to be there, and there was no real pressure coming on you to improve. And it's the same probably with Kilkenny over the last number of years. They always said their training games was as high intensity as any championship game, and we found that this year for sure, that those guys drove the standards of training on, and definitely improved everybody. Because if you look back on even our 16 to 26 in the last number of games, there was a lot of change in every one of them. Not alone, maybe our 1 to 15 stayed quite the same with 1 or 2 changes, but definitely our 16 to 26 changed dramatically from match to match, and that was always a good sign for me, that you were nearly more interested in who's making nearly the subs, who can come on, and that's what I think anyway. But other guys will have different opinions on that as well, you know.
And in terms of the actual on the field stuff, then, like, that obviously leads to a confidence in whoever's coming on to help change the game for those key moments in matches. But there was also, it seemed to me, a calmness. It's hard because 2 years ago there was that calmness against Tip and you win semi-final, and there isn't that calmness against Kilkenny in the final. Maybe it's 3 years ago now, and it's only 3 finals ago. But this year that calmness seemed to be there all year, even when you were, whatever it was, 10 or 11 points down against Waterford in the league, in a match that everybody now says is really important. It's hard to know, like, you know, maybe it is really important, maybe it isn't, I don't know. But did you feel that calmness on the field throughout the season, or is again that retrospective?
Yeah, you can, like, we tried to stay calm under pressure as much as we could, like, and that came from training, because we were under pressure the whole time in training. So we were preparing in training how we wanted to play in a match. And that was the big thing for us, because sometimes you can do training matches, and I'm sure everybody's witnessed in clubs and counties that guys just go through the motions maybe a week out from a match and stuff like that, whereas we were going hammer and tongs right up to it, you know. And
Did that change? Is that different this year from previous years? Or
it is, I think, yeah. And we were fresh this year for every match, do you know. We were hungry for hurling. Maybe other years we mightn't have been as fresh coming into games, and we believed in ourselves as well, I suppose. Like, after winning the league, that was like beating Tipperary, All-Ireland champions, and we were going down to Limerick with, you know, we were fairly underdogs that day, and rightly so, because they were the All-Ireland champions and going well in the league. And
so the Waterford game was important.
It was, yeah, to a certain point, but I think the Tipperary game was even more important.
Yeah.
You know,
you hammer Tip. Like, did you feel like that was going to happen?
No, you didn't. No, not at all. No, if lads say that you felt going down that this, like, we're going to beat Tip by a certain amount, if you bet them by a point, you know, that would have been brilliant. Yeah. You know, that would have gave us the same confidence near. Well, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would have said, right, we're in a good place. But nobody would have expected that. We didn't expect that. There's no point in saying otherwise. But it gave us a good set of confidence. And I don't think we actually reached that level for the rest of the year. In a way, we were consistent in our performance, but I suppose that Tip game was probably one of the best games we played all year, you know.
I was about to say the word consistent, because you and everybody who came before you, pretty much since the team that won the All-Ireland, have had this, we don't know which Galway team we're going to show up. They could be the team of superstars who's going to annihilate anybody, or they could be a team of flops. And as a sports person, that must be one of the most annoying things in the world to have said about you. Yeah. And also not to be able to just bat back and go, screw you, it's not true. Because you just hadn't got the track record of being consistent over a whole year.
Yeah, that was fair point from everybody before. And I suppose Micheál and us all talked about trying to be consistent over the past 2 seasons, and it just doesn't work overnight either, you know. And I suppose, like, guys stepped up to the plate as well, stepped up to different positions, I suppose, this year in a way. Like Garrow's Max centre back, obviously. Phil centre back fairly well for us, and Dahi in full back, and other guys were kind of released to different positions. Then they could carry on their own game, you know. And I suppose Johnny Glynn was a big plus for us as well coming back, because he added a new dimension to our attack, because there's not too many guys that can do what he does. So obviously we didn't have too many injuries either this year. Paul was unfortunate in the Dublin game, but other than that, we were okay. Like, you know, we got by.
Did you feel like last season you were right there? Because obviously Tip effectively blew Kilkenny out in the final, and your match with them goes down again to the last couple of minutes, and you're right there. And sometimes it's not necessarily the better team who wins, it's the team who gets the breaks. It's like you and Tipperary over the last 3 seasons, it now turns out, are almost exact equals. Like clearly as good as each other.
There's nothing between us, you know.
Did you draw any comfort from that from last season and the fact that they were so far ahead of Kilkenny that you're clearly right there with the All-Ireland champions, or is it just pain?
No, like if we beat Tip last year and went into the All-Ireland final, nobody knows. Kilkenny could have hammered us, you don't know, or we could have won by a point or two or 10 points, you know.
So you didn't automatically assume?
No, you don't. You can't do that in sport. Like we won the league final by I don't know how much we won it by in the end, but it was probably 7 or 8 points, and we only beat them by a point in the championship. So you can't automatically say it's going to be the same every day. Do you know what I mean? So no, like there's nothing between most teams. You need a couple of breaks. You need that little bit of luck. There's no point in saying otherwise, because you can be as consistent as you want, but I suppose if you keep doing it over time, it will pay off. And we were just we got a few breaks this year as well, you know. It's
hard to have confidence in that though when that hasn't happened before, you know. Like somebody coming in giving that message and you guys all saying it, there's a bit of a leap of faith involved, and somewhere along the line you as a group had to decide that you were going to do that.
Yeah, well, do you know that as players, we trusted the management as well. You know, we believed that they were giving us the right tools and the right signals to go out and perform, and we were happy with the way we wanted to play as well, because it was a bit of both. It was kind of players taking ownership of the way we wanted to play, and it was also management backing us and having belief in us to actually do it. Because I'd say Micheál would tell you from the start, when he came in first, he probably had a different idea of the way we wanted to play. And
how did that evolve? How did that relationship with him? Because obviously it hasn't really been talked about that much, but like you guys put your neck on the line by writing the letter to the county board and being unified after that. That ended the previous administration just after a very close run thing in an All-Ireland final. So extra pressure, and then the new manager comes in and says, right, these are my ideas, and there has to be a dialogue there.
Yeah, well, we'd no other choice really, in a way, you know. We had to believe in him, but he was very good to a lot of guys. He gave a lot of guys confidence in how they approach things, and you even see the likes of, like for instance, Joey Cooney, for instance, was there for a while on the panel and never really made the team consistently, and in the last 2 years he's been one of our top performers, and one of the best guys we've had, and he'd be nearly first down the team sheet, I'd say, because we know ourselves. He mightn't get the plaudits outside of Galway, but we know ourselves as a group that he's very beneficial to us, and I think Micheál has a huge part to play in that, because he gave the belief to him, and he's just one example of what Micheál and the management do well, you know.
And in retrospect, that was obviously the right decision. It obviously felt for you guys like it was the right decision at the time.
You don't know. There's right and wrong, you know. Now, obviously, winning All Ireland, people think it is, but
it was difficult clearly at the time.
Yeah, it is. It is always difficult, but you know, you had to stand together as a group. If majority wanted it, that's what you had to do, and we're happy enough now that we have an All Ireland after it, you know.
Yeah, and there was no bitterness though, like within the group, that you had done it, because frequently when this happens in the past, you see teams, it can take them a little while to just work out exactly what happened. I mean, the Mayo footballers are another example who clearly have benefited from it. They bonded together and have got so close over the last couple of years, and you bonded together and got really close, and then ultimately go and win All Ireland. So it feels like it was the right decision.
Yeah, it probably was, obviously, because we won All Ireland. You know, if we didn't win an All Ireland, everybody would be saying it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
You know? But just because we won one, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, looking
yeah,
back
but
now,
then I guess because you obviously have spoken really well this year about, the last while, about having a new perspective on life and ultimately not being defined by your success or failure as an All-Ireland winner. Now that you've got one, do you feel like, actually, it's really good that I have one? It's like, I'm happy to tick that box, or has it made any difference?
No, not really. Like, first of all, I'm Joe Canning the person, and second, I'm Joe Canning the hurler. Like, and people sometimes mix them up and put one before the other. So,
did you put one before the other for a long time?
Yeah, you probably did. Yeah, as in pressure and stuff like that, and trying to deal with, I suppose, the general public and the expectations of them. I probably did, yeah, unknown to myself. But
was it impossible for you not to do it though? When you were 15, win a county title, I think you scored 111 in that game. You're 16 when you win your second, or maybe 15 you get beaten in the first one, is it?
15 beaten, yeah.
Yeah, 16 you win the first one, 17 you win your first Club All-Ireland. I think you're man of the match in the final in that one. And then that all leads up to the Cork game. Like, you were very public, very young, and everybody would have identified you as a hurler in every conversation they would have had with you pretty much from the time you were 15. Hard to deal with all that.
Yeah, but when you're young, you're in that bubble that it doesn't really affect you as much. It's when you get older and you probably think about more things that it probably affects you a little bit more. And you're probably getting close to the end of your career, and time is running out to kind of I suppose win an All Ireland for all the people that say you'll never win one. It's great to win one and have that nobody can say that to you anymore. It would be always a thing. You're nothing unless you win in the senior All Ireland, no matter that I've won every other medal that there nearly is to win.
Yeah.
So
where did you stop caring about that stuff? Like,
it was probably 2015, early 2015, really. Maybe a little bit of 14 when Mum and Dad got sick, I suppose. That was really when more important things came, and I spoke about it before. There obviously is a human side to things, and sport is only a hobby at the end of the day for me and for the rest of the guys. And it wasn't just me, there was other guys, I suppose parents sick at the time as well, and we all realised that we needed to enjoy the sport a bit more, because the way it's kind of gone so professional almost in a way now, that sometimes the enjoyment is gone out of it if it's too regimental, or you don't have a balance between playing and actually enjoying things outside of it then, and making time for them kind of things. I think sometimes people can get too caught up in the whole hurling or football or whatever it is, amateur game, to try and be a professional, when sometimes you need to actually pare it back a little bit and relax, and you might be able to enjoy it a little bit more, Did somebody have to have a conversation with you for you to understand that? Or was that a penny drop? Your parents get sick and you go, holy shit, I've got my priorities a little bit wrong here. Is it as straightforward as that? And yet also, that sounds kind of complicated, but do you know what I mean? Yeah.
You need a bit of outside help to go, here, listen, Joe, hang on a second. Everything's going to be all right. Let's just focus on this and we'll worry about this at some point in the future.
Yeah, you kind of realise that, I suppose, yourself when it hits home. You not really talk to anybody in particular. Obviously, Mum and Dad and different things like that. And I have a big family, so there's lots of people to talk to. But yeah, it was probably the realisation that, realistically, not many people live past 100 or anything like that. So, if you lost one of your parents at that time, it would have been horrific, So there obviously is a long time, hopefully, left in the two of them. But, them things creep into your mind at the time, and they're the most important things to me, So you wanted to kind of enjoy that just in case.
Yeah, of course. Because you did your growing up in public. That was kind of the point I was making. Everybody knew who you were as 15. I remember doing one of the Sunday sport games where it was a club match, And I remember the analysis compared you to Henry Shefflin. I think you're 17 at the time. And it's like very difficult for anybody not to have their heads turned. Oh, they're saying I'm Henry Shefflin on TV. Like, and I maybe you didn't, right? But the rest of the country is watching this going, geez, this young lad Canning, he's the new Shefflin. And the pressure builds and builds and builds. And so every day you go out, the expectation is exactly the same. And some days you manage to live up to it and exceed the expectation.
Yeah, no, I never bought into the whole thing. So, like, no matter what people said about me, I never bought into that.
How did you not? Because that's it's a
because I come from a family that wouldn't allow that. No, I never bought into that. That was never spoken about at home. I wouldn't put myself in a situation where there was people in my life that would say that to me. But I'd always know that it was said.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It was very hard, like in the last number of years with social media and stuff like that, not to realise the expectation. Because I found for a long time, if Galway played well, it was fine, get the applause, grand. But if we lost, it was almost back on me more so than not. And that was a thing I felt I found very difficult to deal with. Because for a good few years there, like the debate about playing full forward or where was my best position, that got to me because I've changed as a hurler in a different way in the last 5 or 6 years compared to the hurler I was when I started off. And the game has changed as well, tactically and so forth. So a lot of the people that were saying it didn't really understand the game. And there's obviously more of them out there than there is people that actually understand the game and tactics and actually can read a game perfectly.
Yeah.
So that was the part that I found difficult to deal with. It was frustrating more so than anything. But like I had to, that was my life at the time. You know, I couldn't do too much about it.
You could have told everybody they were wrong. I'd say you must have written and deleted 1,000 tweets going, shut the fuck up everybody.
Yeah, I know, but you can't do that either, you know, because you kind of I don't see myself with that authority to do that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't see myself better than anybody else, so I would have never have thought that I could actually tell somebody, you know, my opinion on it.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Because Ireland is a funny place. If it's a little bit different. Like you look at in America, if a player comes off and they get interviewed and they say you played well today, and they were like, yeah, I was class.
Yeah.
They'd be no problem. In Ireland, if a guy did that, you're going, geez, he's fairly sure of himself. It's not that I would have done that, but I knew myself what I could offer to the team. But there was so much talk, I suppose, of playing full forward, and that's the only place for him. And if he's out the field, what's he doing out there?
Yeah.
He should be in full forward. But you know, people are funny like that.
If people had communicated a bit better, and kind of if there was an explanation, or maybe if the analysis was a bit better, if we all were a bit cleverer and asking smarter people better questions, maybe that would have helped.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. The media are very powerful in what people actually, what people think and the perception of people. It's a lot. I do find a lot of people are very slow to make up their own mind and analyse things themselves, that if they read something or hear something, that's the gospel.
Yeah.
Even if they saw it 10 times themselves, and they wouldn't think to have their own perspective on things. And I find that very frustrating, that people don't have their own perspectives. And like you see different things. If you could meet 10 lads in the pub and they'll say the exact same thing to you after the match, after watching whatever on TV.
Yeah.
And you're kind of thinking to yourself, how can 10 lads in the same thing have the exact same analysis?
Yeah.
And not see something a little bit different?
Yeah.
Because I'd often have it out with the brothers. They'd tell me some things about a match, and I'd be like, I didn't see that at all. But
this match you're playing in, like,
yeah. And I'd tell them something, and they'd be like, "Oh, did that happen?"
Yeah.
Do you know? So, and that's only 3 or 4 people. So,
and they do know what they're talking about.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know, do we? But do you know? That's my point. That everybody can have the same analysis, like you know, of the same game.
And here's the thing: it would be grand if it was about not very important stuff, but it was very focused on you and where you were playing and how the entire fortunes of your county, which had this famine, were on your shoulders. Like it definitely
in a team
always seems.
sport, yeah.
It seems a bit weird in retrospect.
Yeah, it is. But people, but people didn't realise that at the time. I suppose they obviously believed it in a way. But it was frustrating that you're playing a team sport and there's another 14 guys with you, but yet it lands on your head, you know.
And they get asked about it all the time too. Like
yeah,
the famous Johnny Glynn, it's like,
yeah,
you know, you can see, all right. And
it's frustrating. It was frustrating for the guys as well because they were under pressure as well, and like nobody likes to hear that either. And I often thought to myself, like, how are the guys thinking about this? Like, what do they think? Do they think they're not good enough? Or
can you talk to them about it? Can you bring this stuff up? Like, because there's a photograph of the new Galway team bus, and it's one of the footballers, and it's you, and you're all sitting in front of it, and I can only imagine the little piece of you is dying inside, going, I'm really delighted.
Don't need this. Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, it's small things like that just added to it. Do you know?
Did you ever talk to them about it and say, "Here, listen, I don't have a PR person sorting this out for me here. This is like..." The
guys know, but still, at the time, I'm sure there was a couple of them, like...
It's Ireland, as you say.
Yeah, so, and not even them, there's probably family members telling them, what's your man doing on the bus or something like that, and people influencing them from outside.
Yeah.
So... it's very hard to get everybody in the same wavelength, but...
And you learn to kill that noise at some point in your life and in your career and go, like, I'm actually not going to worry about any of this stuff anymore. I'm going to go and play my game.
Yeah, like, I don't... Like, a lot of that time I didn't do too many interviews or anything like that.
Would you,
in
retrospect now, would you actually advise yourself as a 25-year-old to go out and actually say, look, I didn't put myself on the bus. This has nothing to do with me. This is just, I didn't pick that. Or do you think actually keeping your counsel, because like I look at that Kilkenny team now, right, and as they all retire, it turns out they're great lads.
Yeah.
When they're playing, you're like, who are these guys? They never speak. And actually over the last couple of years, you've started to do interviews and tell us about this kind of stuff, and it's been like, holy shit, this is an amazing kind of insight into a sports person at the top level. Would you go back and do more, or would you actually do less?
Most of the time it wasn't me that was actually talking. Do you know, it was more people talking about me.
Yeah.
Of course, yes, I did interviews for different people and stuff like that, and I did my fair share, but compare that to the amount of articles that was written about me or wrote about me or spoken, it was probably like 75-25.
Yeah.
Like I did 25 and maybe 75% of it was other people, but yet it looked like I was there a lot more than what I actually was.
Yeah, I think it's close to 10 to 1. It could be even bigger. Like.
Yeah, so that was like anytime I see something that I didn't instigate, that frustrates me in a way. But that's part and parcel of it, you know. You're sports people, and journalists are journalists, and that's what they do. But yeah, I don't need that kind of a thing. Like I'd rather see the rest of the guys do stuff than me. But I am quite like I'm not controversial on Twitter or anything like that. I don't put myself out there in that way. Like I like to keep myself as private as possible in a way as well, you know.
Yeah, which is obviously a tricky balance to find. Talk to us then a little bit about the actual hurling and enjoying it, because we got waylaid there a bit, but playing where you have been playing this year, and you know, sometimes it's just picking out a pass, sometimes it's just finding a bit of space in those pockets. Like, is that enjoyable? Are you enjoying that aspect of your game and kind of that role playing?
Yeah, for sure. Like since we won the club in 14. I was midfield from the semi-final of the club championship, the final, and then the All-Ireland semi-final and the final. So since then I've been like midfield in the half-forward line with the club since 2014, and
Was that your decision?
No. That was management at the time. I probably offered a little bit more out there.
You must have been happy enough though.
Oh, I was delighted because at club level, like the sweeper was coming in that time, and it was very frustrating when there was guys sitting in front of you, you know, and like I still find that frustrating nowadays. If there's sweepers, like we played against more sweepers this year. I remember against Offaly they had 2 just in front of their full back line, and obviously the Wexford game. But the Wexford game was, I don't think people actually realise that their half forwards are nearly the most attacking, or half backs I mean, are the most attacking half backs in the country. Like I think Diarmuid O'Keefe is their second highest top scorer this year from play.
Yeah.
In the quarter final against Waterford, he scored 2 points from the far wing forward position. Like it was almost, I found it was funny in the Leinster final. For whatever reason, it came into my head like it was Philly McMahon and the Gooch a couple of years ago in the football. I was following Matthew O'Hanlon the whole way down the field. He got 2 points off me in the first half, like. And people say that they're very defensive and do you know?
Yeah.
I always laugh at that when people say that. Like obviously they have Sean Murphy back, but at the same time their half.
There's a reason they're doing it.
Yeah, their half back line is actually just thundering up the field every opportunity they get. So it is enjoyable. There's more room, there's more space, but I'm more of a kind of like I tackle a lot more now. You mightn't always hear about it in the national media, but definitely I think the lads realise in Galway that like I can add a bit more out there and more physicality, I suppose, than I could in the full forward line, and like I am enjoying the freedom that little bit more, but at the same time I'm still only learning that. It's my first year kind of centre forward at like inter-county, so
you feel like there's still progress to come there?
Oh yeah. Like as I said, we were consistently okay since the league final. I don't think we played hugely brilliant. Maybe in certain times, maybe at the start of the All-Ireland, we were very efficient, but I don't think we played as well as we can in any of the games, apart from maybe the league final and maybe the last 20 minutes against Waterford in the league.
Yeah. Which is good over the winter, right? You can actually kind of point to that.
Well, it's like we're still that was only our second year with Mihal, you know, and our first year with Lucas. So there's a lot of improvement physically as well as hurling wise as well that we can do, you know.
Yeah, and you want to be a great team, right? There's not like these famines end in some counties, and that's an end in of itself. You think in the 90s, obviously Clare came back and did win a second one, but Wexford didn't. Limerick never quite made it. Then there are other teams like the Kerry footballers end the famine, and they become one of the greatest teams of all time over the next decade or so, and they appreciate the fact that like you're at bat, you've got to make your time count.
Yeah, obviously you'd love to win another one anyway, but you have to be realistic.
That? Yeah,
Galway, this is only our 5th ever All Ireland. It's not as if we have a great tradition of winning All Irelands. Whether people like it or not in Galway, we're not a hurling powerhouse from tradition wise, you know, back through the years. We haven't.
You could be the group that changes that, though, right?
Maybe, but who
is that
knows?
Too much? Is that like you want to kind of keep that talk make people appreciate what they have this
last year? Yeah, you have to just be in the moment as well. Like everybody last year after Tip beat Kilkenny, thought 2, 3, 4 maybe. Yeah. And you know, we realised that it doesn't just work like that. We'll enjoy this year, like we haven't won it in 29 years. So if we don't enjoy it now, we never will.
Yeah.
Do you know? So we need to enjoy it and get back after Christmas. And
you're going to take off until Christmas, yeah?
Yeah, well, we'll obviously be training with the club and stuff like that. But there's things that we need to work on again. Come probably November, we'll probably be back.
I was looking at photographs because I wanted to show you some. This is from 2008, just after you scored the 212.
Yeah.
What do you think when you see it?
Bit heavier. Yeah, I don't know. Can't really remember. Like I still don't like when I think about that. As I said to you before, it was probably one of the worst things I did for the next 9 years.
Because of the expectation.
Yeah, because everybody expected that performance every day.
And so, if you could talk to yourself now in that dressing room afterwards, what would you say?
Don't know. It was funny. Like I went out. We had a league game the following morning in Lee Mellows. Scored a point for the club. So I don't know. Like I was young that time. I didn't realise that was
Unusual.
Not unusual, but I didn't realise at the time that was the standard I set for myself now for the next couple of years. And if I don't hit that, it won't be good enough in people's eyes.
Galway were 4 points to no score down after 9 minutes when a long ball is lumped in on top of you in the full back line, and it's you and the Rock underneath it, and you catch it. The Rock ends up bloodied, like literally the blood spurting from his face. And Donald Cusack gets booked because he comes out complaining that you've taken too many steps. I don't think he did actually, but he clatters somebody with it, and you're just standing there giving it to him like that, like towering over him, going, "Yeah, come on!" Like I don't know if anybody else in the world would do that to Don Logue when he was as crazy as he was, but there was just kind of this. It's going to be like this forever because I'm now young and invincible.
Well, every young guy thinks that that they can, if something goes right, that there's that little bit of not invincibility, but you're in the moment and it just takes over. The one thing I suppose that actually annoys me about that game is that people say I was on Diarmuid O'Sullivan that day for most of it. I think I marked him for 5 minutes max during that whole match.
They brought John Gardner in after that.
John Gardner, Sean O'Gahalpine, and who else? There was somebody else. But I was only on Diarmuid O'Sullivan for 5 minutes.
Good YouTube clip
that day. I know, but that actually annoys me that people say, "Oh, you scored 212 off the Rock." I didn't like it, and that was never actually said in the media or anything either.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it annoys Diarmuid O'Sullivan as well. But that annoyed me that his name was used in the wrong there as well. But yeah, that's one memory.
Two happier photographs. You and Michal.
Yeah.
In the immediate aftermath on the field, like it's obviously there's chaos around you. Any recollection of what's said or what passes between you?
Just well done. Very little really said between us. Just happy faces and smiles. Remember one of the first people I met was Jack, actually, the nephew. I don't know how he got onto the field so quickly, but he ran over. Yeah, it was just a sense of, I suppose, job well done and job done,
Yeah.
that we got over the line. Remember one of the first times I met him, myself and Michal didn't really know each other too well before, in the last 2 years. We worked together a little bit at under 21, but other than that, not really. So, it was just
from the start. Did you trust him? Did you kind of?
Oh yeah. Remember the first meeting we had was actually in the clinic in Galway, in the Galway clinic, just for a coffee. It's probably one of the most weird places you'd meet somebody in the hospital. But yeah, after that it was you could see that he was a player's man, and he wanted us to run the whole thing.
Yeah.
And he just facilitated everything then, you know. But yeah, it was.
What did you say to Jack? Do you remember that? Like, how did you get on the pitch? Was it like
No. I kind of started crying, to be honest. I knew obviously that he won as well, because it came into us the minors just won by 2 or whatever it was. Just we did it, I think, was the thing. Nearly I said.
Yeah.
And I just nearly started crying. It was emotional to see the family member there, like, you know, at that moment. It was literally, I'd say, 30 seconds after the whistle blew.
And would you have that advice that you had for your own self after that 2-12 for Jack now, saying, listen, it's not going to be like this all the time? Because he was amazing in that minor final. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that back.
Second half, yeah. It was okay.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Or do you just let him find that out for himself?
Yeah, he has to learn himself in a way.
Yeah.
If he wants advice, I'll give it to him. But people have to learn on their own sometimes as well, and embrace things. Obviously, we'll try and advise him as best we can. Like, I'm not saying for one instance that everything that I tell him will be right, like, but
or that he listened to it as a teenager, you know.
Yeah, so he has to find his own feet as well, and enjoy things, because sometimes it might get a little bit too serious for him at a young age too, and he mightn't be able to actually enjoy his life either. So he needs to do that as well, and grow up a little bit as well, you know.
And then this last one's one of my favourite photographs from Irish sport.
Yeah, but Mum, everybody was thinking that was Dad beside her, but it's not. He's actually behind there somewhere. There's the nephew, David, as well.
It's an interloper, because it was reported all around that it was your mum and dad afterwards.
Dad was he was coming in here somewhere in behind. He's not in this photo either. Yeah, that's Mum, all right. I don't know who that guy is, but he's obviously crying as well. But yeah, just to see Mum, that was, we'd be very close, like, obviously Joseph and Josephine.
Yeah. I'd say you got a bit of slagging from your older siblings for that, as like when you were a kid.
Not really. I suppose in one way, like, there's 7 years between me and Ivan.
Right.
Ivan's next to me.
Right.
So
you were the gift.
Yeah, as they say, yeah. But they say other things as well. But yeah, we would have been always very close. So yeah, just to see her and Dad was only a second or two later, because they, like, I know they're proud, but like, to see Ollie going through his career and not winning All Ireland was, you know, that was tough for them. Tough for Dad in the pub when he's talking to the lads as well. He can say it now at least. So that kind of thing was tough, but it's just to see the smile on their faces was the big thing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was just special for them more so than Anthony, because that's who I play for. Like, that's why I do it. Because they given me so much growing up, bringing me everywhere, doing everything that Anthony asked for. They got it from me, just so I could, you know, finally one day do that. So to actually repay them in a way like that was extra special. I suppose after the semi-final as well, when I saw them, that was there's a good picture of Dad as well.
You had to follow it up with one from the finals to make sure the set was complete.
Yeah. So no, it was it's just nice for them, because they enjoy it as much as anybody, you know.
Yeah. Listen, it was a great year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You brought a smile to lots of people's faces, Joe.
Cheers.
Thanks a million. Best of luck next year.
Thank you.